Welcome to Tech Challenge Makers Conquer E-Commerce. I'm Elise, your resident tech expert and author of the book Browser versus Buyer. I've worked with e-commerce shop owners for over 6 years, and I've helped hundreds of creatives overcome their technology fears. Gain clarity and direction in your business with ELISE's E-Commerce Elevator 6-month group coaching program. Join now at myscheduledbiz.com/elevator. The link is in the show notes. Hey guys, today we're going to be talking with Allie Pikulski. She knows exactly what it's like to transition her maker business from one thing into another. By the end of this episode, you're going to understand why it is so important to know when to pivot in your business, the technology that's required, and walk away with one action step. So Allie, I am so glad to have you with us here today to share your expertise. Can you tell us a little bit about your business, your experience with e-commerce, and how you pivoted from maker into something different?
Well, thank you, Elise, for having me. Well, like you said, I started with one thing and ended up with another. Actually, I started in 2006. That's when Etsy first started out. And I started making jewelry. And that's, I love crafting and I love fashion, sewing, all of that. So when I heard back in 2006 that there was this platform that you can actually sell your things, I was so excited. I was all for it. And so I did it and I tried it for a little while. And eventually I realized that maybe jewelry making wasn't the thing for me. And I started sewing, and I've been sewing for about 15 years now, more like at home, like dresses for my daughter and little things like that. And I've always wanted to improve my sewing skills and learn more and make other things, but I didn't want to make things for other people. That's one thing I knew. I didn't want to sew for anybody else, but I was like interested in making things to keep things organized. And I had a lot of jewelry to keep organized, right? Because I just had a jewelry business. And so I decided to start making jewelry organizers. And I love to travel. So I was like, well, this is perfect. I can make travel organizers for my jewelry, for my bags, anything. And so that's where Real Mart Designs started. I was just creating and playing with the fabric, and that really had me excited. And so I did that for a couple of years. And during 2020, 2021, I had some family situations that happened. And I pretty much had to kind of stop the business for a little while. And when it was time to pick it up again, I didn't want to. I was like, I want to sew. That's the thing. I still want to create, but I did not want to make more products to sell. And I was not believing in my product anymore. And that's when I realized maybe it's time for me to do something else. I still love e-commerce and I still love business. But what in the business can I do that involves sewing and involves having my business and involves doing something that I actually believe in and that I enjoy? And so I thought, well, I love talking about the fabric and the zipper and, the interfacing and everything that goes in it. Why not show others how to do it? And so I found a part-time job at my local Joann teaching a sewing class, Sewing 101 every Saturday. And I absolutely loved it. And that's when I said, I think this is for me. So I started my YouTube channel, and that's pretty much what I've been doing for a year now.
I mean, two big transitions there. You transitioned from jewelry into bags. Then you transitioned from making bags to sell to other people, e-com, into teaching people how to make bags for themselves. So all of this really, I think, plays into kind of what all of the bizzers, all of the makers experience. They are talented at a lot of things. Most makers can make many different types of products. And it really comes down to which one you want to make. And sometimes figuring out it's time to change, right? And so that's what we're talking about today, guys, is that realization that maybe it's time to change, how you can figure out if it's time, and kind of moving on from there. So Allie, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I started making jewelry too, so I totally get it. And I just want to be clear, guys, this is not a podcast episode about you have to transition if you're not happy right now. So we're going to kind of break that down a little bit for you to help you understand when it's time to change. So our second thing we want to ask today, Miss Allie, is why is it important to be constantly evaluating your business? Not just in terms of how it's doing, how many sales you're making, but also how it's impacting you, how you're impacting it, and maybe the other opportunities around you that might exist.
Business is a living creature. Okay. Business is alive. And you can see just by how much social media changes constantly. People change, the taste, everything. New things come up. So you have to keep adapting. And so I think that's super important to always keep the thumb on the pulse, right? So always keep changing, not so much your essence, but maybe I can modify this to fit now what my customer is looking for, right? So I think that's important. But it's also important to know as a business owner, when is also time to delegate something, because it may not be something that there's a difference between I don't enjoy writing an email every week and I can probably afford to delegate this to somebody, or I dread going there every morning and I do not even want to turn the computer on. So knowing that difference, it's important. And understanding, yes, there are things that we do that we may not enjoy so much, but we do it, we push through, and then we enjoy the results of it at the end. Like you may not like to send that email, but you like to see how many people open the email and reply, right? So there's a difference. Oh, yes, I don't like doing that, but I know I have to do it. But when you feel like you're just dreading it, like it's just not bringing you any joy, no matter what you do, but you find out one thing that you do that gives you the joy. So for example, for me was, I still wanted to do business. And I started evaluating what part of my business I absolutely love that I cannot just not live without. Like if I have to get up every morning and I have to do just this, what is that? And for me, it was sewing. And so when I realized that, and then I started thinking, well, but I don't want to make the same product over and over and over again. And I don't know how to explain, here, you have this bag, is done, pack it in your luggage and you're done. Like, I don't know how else to explain to you how to use this bag, but I can show you how to make it. I can go in detail. I can talk for hours on how to make this. That's when I knew the difference. That's when I knew, okay, I still love it, but I love to talk about how to make it, not how to use it.
So, I think the big thing here is you have to be constantly evaluating, because not only do you have to make your business successful, right? So we should be always looking at our numbers and figuring out what's working, what's not, but we have to be evaluating ourselves also. Is this really who? I always tell people this, when I'm teaching, I feel the most ELISE I possibly can. And that's how I know that's the right thing for me, because it makes me feel the most me that I could ever be. And so that's what the question becomes. Are you being the most you can be? Are you getting out of this business what it is that you want? And to be clear, I don't mean you're not making sales right now and you might have to push through that. I mean, where is the thing that is you? So it's important to be evaluating to figure out where you might need to make a change or where you might need to make a difference. 100%, definitely.
Exactly. And I'm sorry. And that's why I was thinking the actual product itself, for me, it was like, not that I didn't believe in what I was making, because I knew it was a good product. I made it. But it was more like, I don't want to talk about the product. I want to talk about how I made the product. And so I realized my target customer was different. And so I'm still in business. I'm still doing business.
And you're still making.
And I'm still making. That didn't change. What changed was the delivery method, obviously, and my target customer, who am I talking to now?
I think also the other thing you have to think about is that there are more than one way. There's more than one way to pivot. So
Yes.
you pivoted from making and selling your bags to teaching other people to make them for themselves or whatever. You could also just as easily pivot from making and selling your bags and doing the emails and doing this and doing that to saying all I'm going to do is make and everything else is going to be done by somebody else. That's another pivot. Taking that pivot from solopreneur to now I'm going to have people help me with this. And I know lots of people that stay makers, but they just do it in a different way. You can take your product and have it mass produced.
Yes. That was also something else I thought about when I realized, well, maybe this is just not for me. I can probably have it mass produced, And at the time, it just didn't make sense for me monetarily, time-wise, all of that. So, but I still wanted to continue. So I decided, well, I'm going to go this route, and it has worked. And the key here is to be happy with what you're doing. Because if we're going
most of the time, you're not going to be happy if you're doing 100% of the time.
No, never.
Most of the time, you should.
Most of the time. But if it starts feeling like a 9 to 5, that could be an issue. If you start feeling like, oh, out of the 10 things I have to do today, I only enjoy 2. Maybe look at those 2 and see how you can make money doing those 2.
And the other thing is there's kind of a couple steps here, right? So first there's the realization I am not happy in my business. I am not enjoying anything that I'm doing. And at that point you go, okay, is there a way for me to adjust what I'm doing in my business to make it so that I will enjoy what I'm doing, so that I can get those things that I don't like off my plate so that I can do other things? That might be outsourcing to someone else. It might be not doing them at all. It might be learning how to bulk do those things. So like the emails, you say, I'm going to set aside one day and write 52 emails and I don't have to touch it again for a year. There are ways to get rid of those things. So the first realization is I'm not happy. Then you see if you can address that. Then the second realization is, no, I'm miserable. Don't you think? Yes. And if you get to the point where you go, no, I'm miserable, that's when you have to start thinking about, is it time to pivot? And then you have to explore all the different options of pivoting before you make the decision about where to pivot. So this is not I'm unhappy today. This is, for 6 months, I have been unhappy. I cannot figure out how to make myself happy in what I'm doing. Therefore, I'm going to do this thing that I have thought about. Yes. Not, oh, I'm not happy today, I quit.
Well, and another thing that actually may help me make the decision was my state license was expiring, right? And you have to renew it every year. And it was going to be like $500. So do I really want to spend $500 on something that I may not enjoy doing for another year? So there are different things that push you, for some people that pushed me over. That's like, okay, that makes sense not to do that. You have to evaluate. It's a lot of moving pieces. That is not like a one-day decision or this week I don't feel like it. And so, no, there were weeks I didn't feel like it, but I came back and I was fine. We all need a break, right? But after a while, if you still feel that way and you've tried other things, you've tried having someone help you with this, you've changed the procedure on this, you've changed the way you do this step because you don't like taking pictures, but you found that this step is faster, so you can take better pictures and they take half the time. After you master a skill, because you master a lot of skills being a solopreneur, a lot, too many to count, right? And you still feel like I could definitely do something different with this. I definitely still feel like I can talk about how to make it instead of how to use it. That's when I knew.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to move on to the next question. So that is, what aspect of technology overwhelms makers when they transition from a focus on making into a focus on content creation and or teaching how to make? Because we're all about tech here.
Yes. Yes. And I, to be honest, I felt I was pretty good at tech. You know, when I had my e-commerce account, I built a WordPress. You helped me with my Shopify, and I did learn a lot from you, pictures and everything. But when I transitioned to content creator, it changed. The focus before was my product, right? That my product was my star, the hero in the story, right? My star. Now the for content creation, it's me and how I deliver that. Because not everybody likes how I deliver a teaching, a process. And so learning the techniques, the camera, the video camera, video editing has been like the number one thing I learned, that it takes time to learn. You know, there's a learning curve with video editing. And then not only the video editing for YouTube, make it, you know, I'm speaking and I'm making mistakes and cutting and making it so that it makes sense. But then I have to take that hour-long video into 1 minute for the different social media platforms. So I have learned to be so concise. Like, I have to deliver this message in 1 minute, boom, here. And that has been difficult. And the video editing, making it that is still interesting, that it catches people's attention, but they're learning at the same time. So definitely video has been, because I do blogs. I put the videos on my website. It's blogging mostly, because I don't have products. But most of my content delivery is through social media. So learning that has been it's doable, but I've had a learning curve with that, definitely.
So I think a lot of my people especially are probably thinking, a lot of the businesses are like, well, I already do those things. So let me kind of draw a parallel to what we're talking about here. So you guys can
Yes.
kind of, right? So, Allie talked a lot about video. As an e-com shop owner, like, especially if you've taken my challenges, we talk a lot about photos and videos, and we have, how do you do them and use them and whatever. When you're talking about e-com, number one, your star is your product, like what Allie just said. When you're talking about content creation, which there is an aspect of content creation to being an e-com shop owner. But when you're talking about solely focusing on teaching and content creation, you are the star. And so this is a huge shift in where you kind of focus. So a lot of times the lighting, the setup for how you're recording, for how you're taking photos, all of this stuff is completely different. So you're having to learn those different aspects, maybe of the same technology being used differently, or getting completely new stuff. That's one aspect of it. And then the other thing is, which Allie kind of alluded to as well, is that you're having this mass onslaught. Because if you're doing content creation from a teaching focus, you are the only thing you have to sell, which means you have to be everywhere. And as an e-com shop owner, you also want to be everywhere, but everywhere as an e-com shop owner means posting the exact same content a couple of different places. Being everywhere as a content creator or teacher means you're having to repurpose every video to a blog, to a podcast, to a this. You're having to learn how to use all those platforms at once instead of being able to build on one. So in the e-commerce elevator, we talk a lot about how there's lots of options about where you can go once you've established your e-commerce shop. And these are the things we talk about: podcast, YouTube, a blog, but you're not expected to do them all at the same time. As a content creator or a teacher, you kind of are. And so I think the overwhelm of the technology is not necessarily that it's different technology, it's that you're having to do it all. Do you agree, Allie?
Right, 100% agree. You have to be everywhere, all at the same time. And for example, the cameras, I use now 2 cameras to record. So that was something I had to learn, how to focus the camera here, focus the other camera, combine those 2 views so that the people can see what I'm doing. And so that has definitely been something that I've had to learn to do. And every video is different. It's not like I can take the same video and repurpose it. It's every video is different. And so that's something else that I've had to learn, to eventually I want to be able to kind of use some of the same information. But right now, when you're building up, everything is different.
I think there's one other aspect of technology, which we talked about before we started the podcast, that I want to make sure we bring up again.
Yes.
And that is the comments, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
This is something about technology that people don't often think about. And when I talk to the business about it, they're always kind of flabbergasted. But you will get some ugly comments. And the more content you put out, the more likely you are to get more ugly comments. And especially if you put yourself in a position where you are the star, those comments are going to be about you. They don't like your hair. They think that you're too fat, you're too skinny, your voice is too high, your voice is too low, you talk too fast, you talk too slow. Whatever the case, you don't do your makeup well enough. Your glasses are reflecting. There's so many things. And the more stuff you put out there, the more likely you are to have those naysayers. And so an aspect of technology that isn't even exactly technology, but also is learning how to build up a skin for that. Because you think it's bad when someone complains about your products. What about when someone tells you that you are an awful person, that you're fat, that you're whatever? Can you handle that? And that's an aspect of technology that probably isn't the first one that comes to mind.
That is 100% true. And, dealing with the trolls, as they call them, it's almost like a whole nother skill you have to learn. Putting yourself out there is a vulnerable place to be. But the joy of teaching and the joy of me knowing that there are people who are learning is greater than me worrying about what others will say about me. And, you have to look at it. It's hard. And don't get me wrong. I have videos where I stopped the commenting, like turned it off because it was getting out of control. But those comments actually help your video push it to be more popular, more views, right? It helps the algorithm. But at one point, when is enough? There was a video, I just couldn't take it anymore. It was having so many views, but I just couldn't take it anymore. So I turned it off. I don't care how many views it gets. It could have probably gone viral, but at the expense of what? Of me being all stressed out? That's not the point, right? So it's learning also when to pay attention and when not to pay attention. Some comments are constructive criticism. And I want to learn from these people because if I'm not delivering something that they want to learn, I want to help them. But when you have the other ones who are just giving you information that has no value, I just say, hey, thank you for helping the algorithm with your comment. My video is now more popular. Thank you very much. Or a happy face. I mean, I'm not going to start fighting with them on social media. So I just thank them for their comments and move on with my life.
So I think you kind of said it, but I want to really nail the head on this. So Allie, you
Yes.
clearly transitioned because you were not happy. You didn't find the joy in what you were doing. Are you finding the joy in what you're doing now?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
And so that is kind of the point, right? That's why you pivot, so that you can go back to finding the joy in what you already enjoyed doing, and it got ruined basically. So you go from the dread to the joy.
Yes. And I stay within my industry, right? I love sewing. And so it's just finding that one thing that you love and how you can use it to make money, because we love business. And then we have that one thing that we love and we just go for it. And that's exactly, it took me a couple of tries, but I wasn't afraid of trying.
You know what they say, you've got to fail forwards.
Yes.
All right. So we have 2 more questions. What is one thing that every listener should consider today about how to know when to pivot in their business?
Well, the first thing I would say is don't take this decision lightly. This is something that you definitely have to take a day off, sit in a park somewhere, and do some soul searching to really make sure that this is what you want to do. But if you feel dread going to your business, whether it's in the back room or in an office somewhere, wherever you are, that you have to turn on that computer and start working on your business, and you almost want to cry, maybe it's time to think of what else can you do. But do not take that decision lightly. This is a decision that you really have to sit down and evaluate what it is that you don't like. Can you outsource that? What is it that you absolutely love that you must do every day? And that's what will help you determine. For me, it was sewing more so than selling the product. I couldn't talk about the product as much as I could talk about sewing. So for me, that's when I knew. So that's what I would say is just definitely take your time. But once you decide that you're sure, that you have peace about it, and you know for a fact, then don't be afraid and just do it. Start transitioning a little bit at a time. Start moving things. Start communicating with your audience. Start showing other things and see how they like it and see how you like it. Don't completely close your business because you may not even like that either. So, you may realize, oh, it was just a phase. I do like what I was doing. So it's testing. Just like we test the analytics and we test all of that. That's just another form of testing. That's my advice.
So yeah, I completely agree. When I transitioned from selling jewelry into making my carry clips and my devil clips, so it used to be called devil clips, for those of you who don't know, it was a long process. I mean, you were there, Allie. I mean, I'm sure you remember, I literally talked about it for 6 months probably, because it was really hard to say, this is done. This is not bringing me joy. This is not bringing me peace. This is making me miserable.
Yes.
And I think, yeah, I 100% agree. This is not a today decision. This is you have to sit down and really think about it. You should talk to the people around you who might understand, get feedback. And then, yeah, brilliant point, Allie. We don't want to just close our business. You can always let your business continue to run and focus on something else for a while in the background, and then see, is this background thing the thing that needs to become the foreground? And then go from there. So for sure, definitely think about it for a minute, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can slowly transition. I mean, it's not to say you can't just quit, but you don't want to give up everything and then maybe have nothing to fall back on either. Yeah, so
test. I think it's think about it for a while and then start testing and see if that's something that you enjoyed more. Start talking to other people about it, and you will know.
You don't want to come back a few months from when you quit and feel like you made a mistake. Exactly. You want to be able to say what Allie just did, that she's happy now, she feels joy now, and she wasn't before. That's how you want to feel about it. And I feel the same way about when I stopped making the jewelry that I made. So, just hopefully that helps you guys figure out when it's time to pivot. So Allie, I just want to thank you for joining us in the Bizzers on the podcast. And if our listeners want to know more, how can they find you? Where do they go to look you up?
I am on YouTube. Channel is Allie Sew Crafty.
SEW.
SEW. Yes. Crafty. Thank you. And of course, the same handle on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And my website, Allie Sew, SEW, crafty.com.
Okay, awesome. So you got it. Allie Sew Crafty, SEW, everywhere. Go find her.
Everywhere.
All right. Bye, hon.
Bye.
If you like what we're doing here at Tech Challenge Makers Conquer E-commerce, and it's helping you gain clarity and direction in your business, you should check out ELISE's e-commerce elevator.
In this 6-month group coaching program, I'll guide you through the ins and outs of building a business for purchase conversion. You'll also get to join up with a small group of other e-commerce shop owners who are focused on building exponential growth and reaching the right audience. Head over to myscheduledbiz.com/elevator and join us. We welcome a limited number of new members every 6 months, and by signing up today, you'll reserve your spot. Thanks for listening. See you next week right here on Tech Challenge Makers Conquer E-Commerce.